Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Wednesday that it's important not to get ahead of the question of responding to a 30-day ceasefire proposal. According to Associated Press, he told reporters that Moscow is awaiting detailed information about it from the US and suggested Russia must get that before it can take a position. US President Donald Trump wants to end the 3-year fighting and pressured Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to enter talks. The suspension of US assistance came days after Zelensky and Trump argued about the conflict in tense White House meeting. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who led the American delegation to Tuesday's talks in Saudi Arabia, said that Washington would present the ceasefire offer to the Kremlin, which has so far opposed anything short of a permanent end to the conflict and hasn't accepted any concessions. Peskov also indicated that although Trump said he would be talking to Putin this week, there has been no official request for a conversation from the US.
Внимательно изучаем те заявления, которые сделаны по итогам, знакомимся с текстом совместного заявления, которое было принято в Джинне. Вы забегаете чуть-чуть вперед. Мы не хотим этого делать. Вчера, общаясь с прессой, и Рубио, и Волц заявили, что по различным каналам они передадут нам детальную информацию о сути состоявшихся разговоров в Джинне. Вот сначала мы должны эту информацию получить.
Ребят, которые будут возвращаться, назвали ее защитники.
Мы также не исключаем, что может возникнуть и тема телефонного разговора на высшем уровне. Но если такая потребность возникнет, то он будет очень быстро организован. Имеющиеся каналы для диалога с американцами позволяют это сделать достаточно сжатые сроки.
Russia has begun distributing separatist guidelines to rebels in Syria about protecting the Russian population, according to sources within Ukraine's defense intelligence. According to the sources, after Russia failed to capture the territory of the Syrian coast in the ports of Tartus and Latakia with the help of Bashar al-Assad's supporters, it began to spread the Donbass scenario methodology. In particular, one of the leaders of pro-Russian rebels sharply criticized the new Syrian government. If the new Syrian government comes, they will kill us. If we stand firm, we will drive them out. The Russians have given us 24 hours to resist them, and the Kremlin will assist us from the air and from the ground, he claimed. On March the 8th, Russia sent its guidelines to Syrian rebels, advising them to appeal to Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Syrians were recommended to sign the appeal in the status of a citizen of Syria and Russia. According to sources, the Russians want the Syrian rebels to call on Russia to immediately intervene because of the alleged genocide of the Alawite population, a minority loyal to Assad. We hope that Russia, a nation always advocating for justice and peace, will take decisive steps to prevent further tragedies. An example of such an appeal reads, "The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is expected to welcome such requests, as its mandate includes the protection of Russian citizens." New satellite images obtained by the war zone show that scores of people are seeking shelter at Russia's Khmeimim airbase from fighting between the new Syrian government and forces loyal to deposed leader Bashar al-Assad. The members of the Alawite minority began flocking to the Russian stronghold on Syria's Mediterranean coast. According to the Syrian Network for Human Rights, a London-based watchdog group, Assad regime loyalists killed 383 people, including 211 civilians and 172 Syrian security forces, while Syrian security forces killed 396 people during the fighting. Syria's interim president, Ahmed Shara, responded to the outbreak of violence and armed clashes between supporters of ousted dictator Bashar al-Assad and the new government, which resulted in the deaths of many hundreds of people. He promised to prosecute those responsible for the attacks. During a speech broadcast on national television and published on social media, the head of the Syrian Republic said that he would prosecute anyone who exceeded his authority. Shara, whose rebel movement overthrew Assad's government last December, accused supporters of the former president and unspecified foreign powers of trying to foment unrest in Syria. Today, as we stand at this critical moment, we find ourselves facing a new danger. Attempts by remnants of the former regime and their foreign backers to incite new strife and drag our country into civil war, aiming to divide it and destroy its unity and stability, he said. On March the 6th, pro-Russian supporters of Bashar al-Assad attempted to organize an uprising against Syria's new government, but they did not succeed. Moscow had hoped to exploit the uprising as a pretext for maintaining its military bases in Syria under the guise of peacekeeping. Russia uses such military bases to influence and develop local gas fields. It is significant for Russia to prevent the development of Syria's cheap natural gas, as it could lead to a collapse in gas prices, undermining Russia's economic capabilities, particularly its ability to fund the ongoing war in Ukraine.
High-stakes talks between senior delegations from Ukraine and the United States on how to end Kiev's three-year war with Moscow opened in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. According to Associated Press, the talks reflect a new diplomatic push after an unprecedented argument erupted during President Volodymyr Zelensky's February 28 visit to the White House. Ukrainian officials told the Associated Press on Monday that they will propose a ceasefire covering the Black Sea, which would bring safer shipping, as well long-range missile strikes that have hit civilians in Ukraine, and the release of prisoners. Journalists briefly entered the room to see the two sides as the meeting got underway at a luxury hotel in the Red Sea port city of Jeddah.